Give it to me. Yeah.
So you got a girlfriend now, or you?
Well, no, not really. Well, she's got a new boyfriend now.
Oh yeah.
And I told her, I said, you're a young girl. You got a lot of living to do, and you deserve something better than me. And
I don't know about
but
that.
now she has a lovely fella. She brought him up to meet me in London. He came. He's a nice boy. They live in Kingston, but it's so good now. Before she met him, God, we was on the phone every night. Sometimes we talked for an hour and a half.
Wow.
She's in Kingston and I'm in Hamilton.
Wow. Well, that's nice.
But we're still good friends,
That's good.
And
But if you're in a residence, there's more women. I worked in a residence in St. Catharines.
yeah.
And there's a lot more women than there are men. There's
Yeah.
some pretty nice looking women in those.
Oh, I know there is. Yeah, 'cause
Some of them with money, you know.
Yeah. I'm not interested in money. It never really. My wife, like everything's money to her. When we went playing bingo one night, she won $25,000.
You're kidding me.
Playing bingo. I never saw a penny of it.
Is that right?
Yep. She's just like money burns a hole in her pocket. As soon as she got money, zoom, she's out and spend it.
Out spending it.
Yep.
Spending your hard-earned
Yep.
cash. Eh?
Then another time I got $10,000 when my brother Doc died. I never saw any of that.
Well, your best, my first boyfriend only had one eye.
Yeah.
So the only way you knew that was if he rolled his eyes and one of them
Yeah,
would stay and the other one would go.
Yes, indeedy.
So we'll just do this. We're doing a documentary on the Folk Festival.
Oh, yeah.
So we're going to put it on video.
Uh-huh.
We're going to sell it and we're going to raise money for the festival.
Yeah.
And for all the people that love the festival, they can go
Yeah,
they can
that's
keep that,
yeah.
whatever. So we thought that'd be okay.
Yeah.
Can you give me talk to me a little bit about your background? Where were you born? And give me a little
I was
rundown on
born in Hamilton, Ontario, and November the 12th of 1919. And I've lived in Hamilton ever since. I was raised there, went to school there, and I started performing in 1924. I was 5 years old. And a little kindergarten song started me off. I started off singing it. My older brother, he was 7, I was 5, and he's just put the harmony to it naturally, So that was our start. And now, when we first sang the song, my older brother used to come and get me because he was in the older class.
Right.
Take me home, or I wouldn't have went home. I'd have gone someplace else and played with other kids and found my way home. But anyway, he come and got me after school just to make sure I got home. So when he came, I wanted the teacher to hear us sing this song. So we sang it for her, and she said, "Oh, wonderful." And she asked my mother, "Will the boys sing that song at the school concert?" My mother gave her consent, and then we did. At the school concert, there was a woman there that was raised with my mother. She was taken out of an orphanage and raised as a domestic, the turn of the century. But anyway, she gave her consent for us to sing at the church concert. Now we get to the church concert. Now at the school concert, we knew all the teachers and all the kids, and we'd get up there and sing, and they would be doing this to and we laugh and say. Now at this church concert, I didn't know any of the people, and they're all adults, Nobody's smiling. They're just waiting to hear these wonder boys, We got up. My older brother would give me a note to start, and I would start that. Then he would join in the harmony. Now I get up there and looking down at all these people. He gave me the note, Nothing. Wouldn't sing. Gave me another note. No, nothing. Then another note and So now, the minister, the minister of the church, he tried talking to me. Wouldn't sing. Now the women of the auxiliary come over. They tried bribing me with cake, candy, ice cream, and money. Still wouldn't sing. Now my mother's getting embarrassed by this, all that. So she said to the minister, let me have 5 minutes with him in the back room. I went in the back room and she put me over a knee and applied the hairbrush, put me out on stage. I sang and I've been singing ever since. And I'm telling you.
So your mother was a real stage mother. She knew how to.
No, she didn't. Like, she was just a country girl, raised, as a domestic. And, but she eventually had 15 children. Where she was raised, like, by the time she was 18, she was doing all the work, like start in the morning with the ashes and setting the fires, and then got to cook breakfast. See, they owned a canning factory. So she would get up and help the old lady, and they would get breakfast for all the men, and then they'd get out to work. Then they had the house to do, with all those dishes and everything. Then when that was finished, it was the vacuum. They didn't have vacuums then, but all the dusting and sweeping up. And there was dust from there, dust from the ashes, in the coal stoves. By the time she was 18, she'd go for a yearly checkup with Mrs. Hislop's grandchildren. She was also a nanny, a babysitter, all that. So when she got to the doctor told her, when you go home, he examined her, said, when you go home, tell Mrs. Hislop that you've got to take it easy. We found a spot on your lung. So she told Mrs. Hislop that, and she told her, well, you can't take it easy and stay here. So she said, yeah, that's right. She said, I can work. I'll go to Hamilton and get a job. She did. She got a job at a minister's place, Reverend Forner. She said he was one of the nicest people she'd ever met, but his wife was the original slave driver. She said she worked harder at that house in the 2 weeks she was there than she did the whole 18 years at the other place. But anyway, my dad was around then after her to marry him. So she thought the only way she can take it easy and marry him. She married him and had 15 children. Get that? Yep. The first year she was married, she was pregnant. So she had 15 children. They're all gone except me. I was the third eldest of the bunch, and it just seemed like my grandson says, well, how come you're still here? I said, I don't know. I must have done something right or wrong, whatever. But here I am, going to my 85th year.
And you said, too, that you also told him something about
hate. Oh, yes, yeah. I told him. He said, well, how come your brothers are all dead and you're here? I said, well, one thing, I never lived with hate. He said, you mean you never hated anybody? I said, no, I never hated anybody. Not even my first wife. I didn't like her, but I didn't hate her. And it's true,
Not even in the Army now. I talked to Patrick, and you were talking to him about being in the Army.
Oh, yeah, yes.
How hard that was as a black man.
Yeah, that's right. You see, I was the only black we took our training at number 20 basic training camp in Brantford, Ontario. And, now, every time they would come into check the barracks and everything. The officers always had racial remarks. Like when they'd come in, they'd say good morning to everybody, and then they'd look around, see me now. Oh, I see one of your lights is burned out, those kind of comments. And oh, the dark cloud looks like it's going to rain. The sun would be shining, So that was okay. I let them have their fun. But then, now I was drafted into it, So
And that was World War II?
yeah, and now that was the tank corps that we done our basic training with. A nice bunch of boys, like we had grand times with them, but I just didn't like that, So anyway, when it come to signing up, to joining up, they wanted me to join up with them, and I said, nope. I said I'm not going to join anything. One thing, I didn't want to go overseas. That was my main reason. But anyway, nearly all that gang got killed. They went overseas. Yeah. If I went over, I wouldn't have come back. I know that. My younger brother, went overseas and was taken prisoner of war in Germany. And he said, there was, people have guardian angels. His guardian angel was a German guard in the prison. Because he was black, he was taken out 3 times to be shot by the SS troopers. And that German guard saved his life 3 times. And you know how it come about? Joe Louis was world champion then, and he fought a German fellow named Matt Smelling. And Matt Smelling beat Joe Louis once. Then when they come back again, Joe, did that. But anyway,
Sorry.
Yeah.
Just one second. Telling me a story. And my eyes started to water, and I looked like I was crying. But I said, no, I've got this bad cough. I
Yeah.
don't even smoke.
Yeah.
Okay, so. You want to.
So anyway, when he went to the camp first, the German guard was talking, and they got my brother Doc was 6'6", and he had done some boxing. So the German guard had done some boxing too. So they got talking about fighters. So he said to my brother, what do you think of Matt Smelling? My brother Doc says, he was an excellent fighter and a fine man. He had a friend there, and But I can remember when we got the telegram, that he was missing in action, and Doc was the type of person that if there was any way around anything, he'd find a way around. My mother and them all started to, and I said, well, hold it. I said, Doc. I said, he'll find something. He'll find something to get it around somewhere. So at first he was listed missing, so they thought he was dead, But anyway, then a little later on, we got the telegram he was taken prisoner of war, and he's the only thing about it. He come out of that bitter. He was when he came home from overseas. He was mean, and didn't he punch more people out, including policemen. Yeah, but he was a great boy. And in fact, he was the youngest in our quartet. But now I made up my mind. I wasn't going in the army. I said to them one day, the officers, we were talking to them. They were the smart Alex, and I said, you guys all think you're smart, eh? Oh, they laughed. Ha ha, I said, but I said, I don't like the Army, so I'll be leaving you. They said, no, you can't get out of the Army unless there's something wrong with you. I said, I got something wrong with me. He says, what? I got stomach ulcers. And one captain said, well, I have stomach ulcers and I'm still in the Army. I said, yeah, but you're a commissioned officer. So it's a little different, isn't it? Oh, yeah, I know. They laughed, and anyway. So finally, I told them one time, I said, yeah, I said, these stomach ulcers is bothering me. I've got to have them looked at. They said, we'll shoot you down to Christie Street Hospital and give you a thorough going over. And if you've got stomach ulcers, you can be discharged. I said, fine, thanks. So they did. They sent me down to Christie Street Hospital. I had no more stomach ulcers than you had. But they give you, before the x-ray, they give you like it's a milkshake, but it's kind of powdery, there's no taste to it. It's just so I smuggled in a package of raisins, and before I had that x-ray, I swallowed a handful of them, chewed them up and swallowed them, and then they give me this stuff. They didn't know that I took the raisins, but I swallowed this stuff, and so okay. Now, they came back later and they said, well, you're discharged. You'll be discharged. You have stomach ulcers. And what it was, the raisins stick to the lining of your stomach and show up as ulcers. I was discharged from the Army. So now when I left, I said to them, boy, you fellas really know your work. You got to be congratulated. They said, why? I said, well, you told me that you couldn't get out of the Army unless you had something wrong with you. And I said, and you found it for me. Thanks a lot. They said, well, good luck, Washington. I like that. Thank you. Goodbye. But that was it.
Now, did you have any medical training that you knew that if you took raisins, you just figured it wasn't a bad thing to do?
No. But wow. a fellow that played in movies, he was a Hamilton boy, and he lived. Did you remember the fellow, Don't Squeeze the Charmin?
Yep.
Well, him.
Oh, yeah.
Dick Wilson. He's a Hamilton boy.
Wow.
And he did that to get out of the Air Force.
Oh, is that right?
He told me.
Oh, so,
I got,
so you got his advice on that.
Sure. Yeah.
A Hamilton trick.
Yep.
Sure.
Yeah, he's still, last I heard, he was still alive.
Really?
Yeah. And Dick was he's about 2 years older than me. So I'm going to 85 this year. So, but the last I heard, he was back in Hollywood, but they had to put him in a nursing home. He, got bad.
Motion picture nursing home, that'd be fun. A motion picture nursing home down there.
Yeah.
Now you played with your brothers.
Yes.
And that's, after you got out of the Army,
yeah,
you got a job on the railroads, is that? Was that an eventual thing?
Before.
Oh, right.
Before I went, 1939, I got a job as a porter in the CPR, and everybody tells me I've got a natural charm. I must have had there because they wanted porters for the railroad. You had to get letters of recommendation. Now, your requirements were you had to be 21, you had to be 5'10", and at least 160 pounds. I was 19. I weighed 129 pounds soaking wet. And with
you weren't 5'10".
No, I was 5'7.5". So, but I had the best recommendation like from the mayor and all the border control, owners of companies in Hamilton, and there's a Nora Francis Henderson Hospital. Nora Francis Henderson herself gave me a lovely recommendation. The mayor and all the ministers of the churches and everything.
Did they not? Did they give you those recommendations because of your singing?
Yeah. Oh yeah. By
Well
by 1938, we had sang in practically every church in Hamilton. You know, and that. But anyway, now I'm in Toronto training for being a porter. So now, Mr. A.B. Smith, the general manager of the, called me into his office one day. He's got all these letters. He kind of was looking at them. He said, Washington, you want to be a porter? I said, yes, sir. And he said, well, you know the requirements. I said, yes. And he said, how old are you? I said, well, 20. I going on 21. He kind of smiled, kind of nodded like that. He said, and what do you weigh? I said, oh, around 150, 155. He said, mm-hmm. And how tall are you? I said, oh, I was 5'9" the last time I... And he said, mm-hmm. Then he said, oh, okay, all right. Yeah. Now I know, at that time, I didn't know, but now I know what was going through his head. You think this portering job is going to be a cinch, and you're going to have a time. You want to work, we'll work you. Oh my God. Now it comes along. We passed all our exams. We're doing all our bed making and everything. And they call me you've got a trip to Banff, out of Toronto now. That's 3 nights and 4 days. Again on the 4th day. Full car. Like usually when your first trip, they give you like an overnight run maybe to Sudbury and maybe a half a dozen beds to make. And this time they sent me a full Banff, a full car, 24 beds. Oh my God. So now I get down there early in the afternoon, the car's in the yard. I go in, I make all my beds. It doesn't leave Toronto till 11:59. And I get time to get all my beds made and everything ready. So when the people came, and we porters stand outside the car. Car 73 to Banff, they got all the children in the pajamas and the house coats, so they just get on, put them right to bed. So fine. Now we leave. I can still remember the engine's numbers that pulled us. 2814 and 2839. Double-headed. They had 18 cars on that train. We pull out of there and I'm fine. My customers is all in bed. And I get up about 5 o'clock in the morning, and that's when you start making the beds, getting them up so fine, everything goes well. Now, it was a hot day, and our car was an extra, so it wasn't air conditioned. They had the screens in it, and the window lift up, So now everything's going. I got all my beds put away. Everybody's gone to breakfast now. And I noticed all the women in the car are all fanning. All my customers is fanning themselves, Conductor Sullivan is considered the worst conductor on the run. I had him. So he comes in and says, Washington, what the hell's going on here? I said, what do you mean, sir? He said, all your customers is complaining. I said, well, they've got the fans in the windows and everything. I said, I've give them all pillows to be comfortable, and they've got programs. And he says, yeah, but he says, everybody's too hot. Can't you do anything? I said, I don't know what to do. He said, well, you got to do something. He said, they're all complaining. So finally, he came back after and he said, it's no better. I said, well, I just don't know what to do. Now I got to worrying, and still stayed hot. Everybody hotter in the other cars, and couldn't figure it out. So now, after I have supper, and I go in sick as a dog. I couldn't keep anything on my stomach, just worry, And I was soaked through sweating. So finally, and I was sick. I was really sick. So about 11 o'clock at night, he come in and he said, Washington, they're taking you off in Winnipeg when we get to Winnipeg. And you're no condition to carry on. So finally, that was okay. The next day in Winnipeg, they take me off. And I was sick. And I went to the quarters where we stayed. And that was the end of that. I was sick for about 4 days. On the 5th day, I thought I'd go down to the station and report. And I was back ready for duty. And I come back in. They what the hell happened to you? Like that. So I told them anyway. Now, they said, oh, okay. So I had to do a little station duty or something for a while. Then I went back to the quarter. On my way out, here comes Conductor Sullivan. I said, Washington. Yes, sir. He said, can I have a word? I said, yes. And I come over. And he said, I said, I owe you an apology. I said, oh? He said, yes. He said, I was a little hard on you coming out. He said, about that car. He said, your car was right next to the dining car, and a steam pipe broke in the dining car, and the heat was all leaking into your car. He says, I owe you an apology. I could have kissed him. Oh, God, yeah. But I thought sure they'd say, like, it's too much for you. We're going to send you back to Hamilton.
You were so worried and you were sick.
Yeah, that was it. But
so how many years were you on the...
Just 2. 1939 and 1940. Now, for some reason, all the district superintendents took a liking to me. Well, what I would do is when we had finished our work, I had a guitar with me on the train, so I would take all the children from my car and maybe the next car and take them all into, and I would sing songs for them and read the funny papers to them and act them all silly for them. And the mothers, it'd give them a chance to relax. So everybody wanted me. But all the district superintendents along the line took a liking to me. And when I'd come into towns, I can remember I came into Moose Jaw, Saskatchewan, and the district superintendent says, you only got 2 more passengers to let off, And he said, would you like to stay in Moose Jaw for a while? I said, yeah. He says, well, I'll let the porter on the next car put your passengers off for you. Get your things and come on, you can stay here. I was in Moose Jaw for a month, doing nothing. Every day I'd go and meet, I had to meet 2 trains and see that the porters had supplies. And then I get my 3 meals a day. Away I go, back to the quarters. Now, I had a gang I met there, a girls' softball team, and every day we'd be downtown I'd be playing boogie-woogie piano in the music stores. We used to go to their ball games. Oh, we had a great time. It was just wonderful. And that's what happened to me all the way along the line.
Well, places like Moose Jaw wouldn't be the same. Anyway, tell us about the rattlesnake in Moose Jaw.
Anyway, well, no, it's Swift Current, yeah. But like I was out poking around, like, you know, with a stick and, and this thing, there's a real fine sand. Come up out of that. Anyway, it banged, of course I run, you know. And I don't know whether it chased me or not, but it showed up the same place where I stopped. So I presume it chased me, I don't know. But,
so the music helped you along in your job
oh
on
yes,
the railroad.
yeah.
So that was, I sort of had two jobs, because the question that I had is, you're busy, you're on the trains and whatever. When do you have time for, you know, for your music? So you used it all along.
Well, see, we'd get, like after breakfast, like our beds were made up, like in the chair, seats, you know. So there was nothing to do except like we were going across the prairie, or you know, and just relax. Like there wasn't really anything to do. We just check and make sure that the passengers had what they wanted, or prepare them for when those were getting off, you know. And so, you know, just things like that. So that's when I would take the kids and play for them, and they just loved that, you know. Their mothers just thought that was just great. Yeah.
Those are long trips.
Oh, I know they were, yeah. Then the next year, now that I worked out of Winnipeg in '39, the first year. The next year, we went out to Vancouver. I got a run out to Vancouver, and the porters told me, they said, now listen, when you get to Vancouver, Mr. Hawthorne is district superintendent. Now, I can tell you now, I said, if you go in, like say, come in this morning, he'll have you out on the next train, out. Like, you know, Hawthorne don't like nobody. So, you're warned. I said, yep. Guess what? I got out there, Hawthorne took a liking to me. I was in Vancouver all the time. Just meet a couple of trains at night. I had a girlfriend in Vancouver and was working at night in a club out there, in a bar, you know, playing guitar, and she was a singer too. So, like, we worked together and that. She wanted me to marry her and stay out there.
You were single at that time.
Yeah, oh yeah. I was on 20.
So did you have a girl in every port?
No. Well, you know, I tried. But, yeah, right then I was just, see, all the time in Hamilton, I never had a girlfriend. Like, you know, I knew plenty of them, but never had one. But because there was too many of us in the family. And my brother Harold stuck to me like a mustard plaster, you know. If I had a girlfriend, he'd show up there too. You know? But anyway, she wanted me to, but she was married and separated. She had 2 children, and her oldest daughter, she was 12 years old, she hated me because she figured I was trying to take the place of her father, you know. That's right. But so after that, the next year, that was 1940. 1941, I was drafted into the Army, so I never went back on the railroad, you know.
So
but
after the Army, what happened after the Army?
After the Army, I was discharged September the 8th of 1943, and I just kind of hung around Hamilton. Let's see, our quartet was broke up then, and so I just used to play little garden parties or birthday parties and things like that, you know. And 1943, they used to have what they call a selective service, and it was like if you'd go there to apply for a job, you'd tell them what you wanted, you know, and if they couldn't fill that job, that position for you, you'd get unemployment insurance and that, and I wanted to get my unemployment insurance. So when they sent me up there, they asked me, what is your occupation? I told them I'm a shepherd. So they didn't have any jobs for a shepherd, so I got my unemployment insurance. Now it began to run out after a while, so they sent me to the American Can Company in Hamilton. So I went in, and the personnel manager met me, and he said, I'm sorry that we can't hire you. I said, may I ask why? He said, yes. He said, they won't work with you. I said, how do you know they won't work with me? He said, yeah, that's a good question. He said, I'll tell you what I'll do. He said, I'll give you a week's try here, and if they'll work with you, you've got a job. A week later, told me, he said, you're hired, and for the lunch break and the dinner break, we'll pay you to play the piano and entertain you.
Wow.
So I was the most popular employee they ever had at the American Can. I still have people today that remembered me from that.
And how long did you work there then?
I was there for 3 years, 1943 to 1946. And then I wanted to get on with my music, so I left there to pursue my music career. But
so you made a living as a musician ever since then?
Yeah.
Able to.
Yeah.
Because it isn't that easy to make a living.
Not really. I didn't. I just kept that music. Now I had all kinds of jobs. I worked for the city in Hamilton, at paving roads, making sidewalks, and I shined shoes. Then I worked on the racetrack, Fort Erie, Fort Erie, New Woodbine, and Greenwood. And they told me there, because see, I've always had a way of doing things like my way. It's always been, I'll look after me, Now, they told me.
Well, if you're one of like 13, 15 kids,
yeah,
you got to look after yourself, right?
Well, yeah, you see, this is right, yeah. Now, I was married then, Now, they told me about the job on the racetrack. I got a call on April 22nd, 1958, to go to Fort Erie. They needed me. A friend of mine asked me before, he said, if you went on the racetrack, would you shine shoes? I said, sure, money, Now I get down there, they tell me that E.P. Taylor will pay you $5 a day for being here. You charge a quarter a shine, and if you look after business, and now you can't bet horses. You can't talk to the customers about horses. So in other words, you just shine shoes, and in fact, you don't, we prefer it if you don't talk to the customers at all. Just shine your shoes and now, if you look after business and keep your nose to the grindstone, you can make, maybe $250, $275 a week. Guess what? I made between $600 and $800 a week. The general manager and the public relations man used to come down every day just to see what I was doing, what I was up to. They came down one day, here I am having a tea party with 3 4-year-old girls. So they said after this, what brought that on? I said, well, their mothers wanted to go and have a beer. And there was nobody to mind the kids. So they asked them, they said, would you stay with Jackie? And they said, oh, yeah. And I said, and here I am, a 3-4-year-older. Then I would shine somebody's shoes in between and go back, and I had put our little tea party. I had a orange crush or something and little cups for them and little cakes. Well, honest to goodness, I made more friends at that track. Like, Roger Maris, the ball player, he used to come over. He had businesses in Toronto, and he told the general manager and them, he said, I wouldn't think of going back to New York without going over to say hello to Jackie. Duke Ellington's men, Count Basie, Dizzy Gillespie, all used to come to the race. To come over and see me. And now they told me, don't talk horses to So now the general manager and them came down. Of course, news gets around fast. He said, Jack, do you bet horses? I said, certainly. They said, well, you can be fired for that. I said, I know that too. And they said, well, how do you get around it? I said, now, sometimes a man will be having a shine, and he wants to get a ticket on a horse. He hears something. So he'll give me the money, go get the ticket. I said, I'm right there, ain't I? They said, yeah. I said, well, while I'm over there, I just get a little ticket for me. Now, they said, they came down, and every time they'd come down, they'd ask me questions, So they said, Jack, can you handicap horses? I said, certainly I can. They said, well, how do you do it? I said, I allow 1/5 of a second for each horse length. And I said, and I study the form every night. So they said, well, about handicapping, they said, we've got handicappers for all these papers. The Racing Form, the Toronto Telegram was out then, Toronto Star, the Spectator, the Globe and Mail, and even some of the ex-jockeys or something like that put out tip sheets that they sell with their selections of horses. Now, every one of them can pick horses, and they pick winners, but they only pay 8 to 5, 3 to 1, 2 to 1, Can you pick a race and pick a horse that will win at odds of 10 to 1? I said, sure, I can do that. So they said, well, I'll tell you what, when you get a horse that's going to pay pretty good money, and you handicap it, you tell us before the race, so we'll know. I said, well, that's fair enough, yeah. So they went away laughing. They said, we'll see you on that day. Okay. November the 4th, 1959. I'll never forget it. They came down. I said, gentlemen, this is the day. I've got a horse. In the second race, number 1 horse. His name is Tidet. He will win that race. I said, well, what makes you think that? I said, well, he's the son of Midianite. Midianite could run in the mud, and today's a muddy day. So they went away laughing again. They said, look, we'll see ya. Now, to make a long story short, the horse won by 3 lengths all the way around the track, and guess what it paid? 90 to 1. I got $181.60 from my $2 back. They came back, honest to God, they said, you're amazing. And it was a muddy day, so hardly anybody was getting a shine. People filed by me just like royalty. There he is. One guy told his wife, you follow him everywhere he goes to bet, and bet whatever he bets. But I dodged them. I didn't, I didn't let her do it. He was a pimp from Detroit. And he had a Cadillac, and he wanted to get his Cadillac fixed. So he thought the best thing to follow me. And But oh, I had just a wonderful time. Uh, I was there for about, let me see, I was there for about 2 months. And then after that, they had my picture on the racing programs. Yeah, and it said on there like, Jackie does everything from babysitting to handicapping, and we weren't supposed to bet. Yeah. Oh God, it was fun. He said they don't come here to win money. I said no. What do they come for? He said they actually come to lose. But you know, that is right. I saw people come. One woman come. She used to. Her boyfriend invented some kind of a game that you could like pick a horse, and you could set it up for each race, and I don't know how it worked, but you could pick one horse, and it would give you it would pick a winner for you. But anyway, he had every day we called her Numberella. She had every paper that you could get, here she comes, she's got all these papers with all the selections. She was a pretty good handicapper herself, but honest to goodness, one morning she came over to me and she said, Jack, now the only way you can get a daily double, the only sure way, is pick before your race, pick the horse that you want to win and couple it with every horse in the second race. And if that horse wins, you know you got the daily double because you got it coupled with everything. Now, she came and she told me, Jack, I think I got the daily double. So I looked at her, I said, yeah, Lois, that's a good horse. I said, when? I said, did you couple it? She said, yes, I coupled it with every horse in the second race except number 13, no, number 14, I said, well, why didn't you? That's just an extra $2. She said, well, I can't pronounce his name. So I looked at the horse. The horse's name was Thermonuclear. She couldn't say it. So when she left, I got right down off my chair and went right over the window and bought a ticket on Thermonuclear. And her horse won the first race. And she said, oh, gee, I wish I'd have bet him now. I said, I bet him. She said, you did? Yeah. Now, he won the race, paid $114 right then. She'd have had a good daily double. Oh, God, yes, indeed. And then one time, I got there, and there was a woman, she was sitting, all by herself, just a young woman, And so she said to me, I want to bet. I want to bet we couldn't tell people who to bet, Oh, no. And she said, I want to bet today, but I don't know how to bet. I've never been here before. And I want to bet the daily double. And I said, well, you just pick by hunch or by somebody's name or anything that you can, really, She said, well, I don't know what to do. She said, but I got $88. I said, well, then bet 8 and 8. She said, oh, all right, that makes sense. Away she went. She bought a ticket at 8 and 8. They won the daily double, and she got $750 for her $2 bet. Oh my God. And so the next day, she came up and handed me an envelope. I said, I hope that's not money. She says, yes, it is. I said, no, dear, no. I said, I get paid. Oh, she said, well, if it wasn't for you, I wouldn't have had that. I said, thank God for me. But it was so funny. I met so many people, and some of them that I got to know. Now the veterinarians used to do operations on the horses, and they would come and tell me.
Okay, we got a couple minutes left
Uh-huh.
because you got to go to a workshop.
Yeah.
So I'm going to ask you a couple of questions
Sure.
about. One of the questions that we're asking all the artists is, do you believe that music can change the world?
Change my world. Yes, indeed. Yeah. Like I told you, I started real young. And by the time, like, my brothers had joined in, like, by 1938, I told you, we had sang in practically every church in Hamilton. Well, that, like, we weren't just a black family. Everybody knew us, and it was actually a wonderful feeling. We was raised like in the north end of Hamilton, and everybody knew our family, and then being 15 children, there was a Washington for every age and every class. And I'm sure that changed everything for us. Yes, we were still a poor family, and I can remember like some of the churches and things we'd play for, and they were all like just free. Like my mother let us go and sing in church, and at Christmas time, they send you baskets. And I can remember one year we got a dozen baskets from different organizations, just for things for the kids.
The church,
yeah,
through your music,
and all through the church and music. Yeah, it was wonderful.
Now the other question I have for you is, Colin Linden wrote that song. There's a band on the east side, there's a girl on the west side. What was that about?
Well, I guess it was something I was up to. Oh yeah, like, you see, like, I've always loved people, and especially girls. Now when my mother told me I didn't walk till I was 2, but I was talking at 9 months. And I can, believe it or not, I can remember sitting in my high chair. My mother's girlfriends would come over, and I knew them all by first name. They would hug me, While they was hugging me, I'd whisper in their ear, "Get me some donuts, get me some ice cream." And they would. And that, so, like, I get...
That's great. Okay, I could talk to you all day.
Oh,
you know that.
Yeah.
I'll have to come down and see you in Hamilton. We're asking all of the artists to, because nobody's narrating this documentary, if you can look in the camera right here and tell us what your name is and where you're from.
Yeah, I'm Jackie Washington, Dr. Yeah, they call me. I was born in Hamilton, Ontario, November the 12th, 1919, and I'm still in Hamilton.
That's great. Thanks, Jackie.
Rose,